next speaker is Bobby Kimbro, and Bobby is a chartered member of the EnergyPlex Toastmasters Club. Tonight he's working on Project 5 from the Storytelling Advanced Communications Manual, which is titled Bringing History to Life. The story of the historical person that he will present is titled Billy the Kid, Hero or Outlaw. The manual suggests a time of 7 to 9 minutes. Help me welcome Bobby Kimbro.
The most famous outlaw gunfighter of the frontier Southwest was William Bonney, alias Billy the Kid, who was born illegitimate in a poor Irish slum neighborhood in New York City on November 23rd, 1859, to Catherine McCarthy, an Irish immigrant. He was named Henry and had an older brother, Joseph. His father was believed to be a man named Edward McCarthy, a peddler who already had a wife. When Henry was about 14 years of age, he was sent by the New York Children's Aid Society to live with William Antrim. Brother Joseph arrived later, and not long afterwards, Antrim married the mother, Catherine, on March the 1st, 1873, in Santa Fe, New Mexico. After drifting around New Mexico for some time, the family settled in Silver City, where Catherine died of consumption. In Silver City, young Henry first encountered trouble. He and a friend stole some garments from a Chinese laundry. They were captured and sent to jail. But Henry escaped by crawling up a chimney. At 17 or 18 years of age, Henry traveled to Camp Grant, Arizona, near Tucson. At Camp Grant, Henry Antrim, as he was now calling himself, had a fatal encounter with Frank Cahill. Following some name calling, the two men began struggling, and during the fight, Henry pulled a pistol and shot Cahill through the stomach. As Cahill lay dying, Henry was arrested. Days later, however, he escaped and fled back to New Mexico, where he began calling himself William Bonney, and then later Billy the Kid. According to legend, it was not long before Billy killed another man, a blacksmith in Camp Grant, Arizona. Billy the Kid, as people began calling him, next found work as a rancher and bodyguard for John Tunstall, an English-born rancher who operated out of Lincoln, New Mexico. When members of the rival cattle gang killed Tunstall in 1878, Billy became involved in the so-called Lincoln County War. He was enraged by Tunstall's murder. Billy became the leader of a vigilante posse of regulators sent to arrest the killers. No arrests were made, however, but two of the murderers were shot dead by Billy's posse, and an even worsening feud soon escalated into all-out warfare. After Billy Gaines shot dead Lincoln Sheriff Bill Brady, who had sanctioned Sheriff Bill Brady, who had sanctioned Tunstall's murder, Billy's enemies conspired with territorial authorities to do away with the regulators. In July of 1878, the rival gangs surrounded the house where Billy and his gang were staying just outside of town. The siege stretched on for 5 days, and a U.S. Army squadron, not Navy but Army, from nearby Fort Stanton was called in. Still, Billy and his gang refused to surrender. Suddenly, the regulators made a mass escape, and Billy and several of the other regulators miraculously managed to shoot their way out of town. Now, after more than 2 years on the run, Billy was arrested by Lincoln Sheriff Pat Garrett, a man Billy previously had befriended before Garrett became a lawman. In April of 1881, Billy was found guilty of the murder of Chef Brady and was sentenced to hang. But on April 28, 2 weeks before his scheduled execution, Billy wrestled a gun from one of the jailers, shot him, and shot another deputy dead in a daring escape that received considerable national attention. The news of his escape made page 1 of the Gazette on Sunday, May 1st, 1881. The short article was titled, "The Kid Escaped," but did not give many details. Then on May the 3rd, a page 4 article, which was normally reserved for the local news, detailed in great detail his escape. Again, was entitled "The Kid's Escape," and the account took an extra column and went into even greater detail. Now, the kid decided to lay low long enough that the law would give up on hunting him, and he could rustle up some money and leave the territory. By July of 1881, Garrett heard rumors that Billy the Kid was in Fort Sumner. So with 2 deputies, he rode into Fort Sumter. For 2.5 months, the Las Vegas newspaper carried reports of Billy's supposedly whereabouts. During that time, he was tracked down by Sheriff Pat Garrett. On July 14th of 1881, just before midnight, Pat Garrett waited till the town was quiet before he slipped into Pete Maxwell's room to ask him about Billy the Kid. Garrett was a former employee of Pete Maxwell's, and it's possible that Maxwell tipped Garrett off that the kid was in the area. At that exact moment, the kid, with a knife in hand, went to Maxwell's house to get some fresh beef for a late steak dinner. As he approached, he saw Garrett's 2 deputies on the porch, and since he did not recognize them, he backed cautiously into Maxwell's room and asked, "Pete, who are those fellas outside?" But he got no answer. And as he walked toward the bed, he saw Garrett's silhouette and started to back away and asked in Spanish, "Who's that?" Garrett recognized the kid's voice and fired his gun. The bullet pierced the kid's heart, and he fell to the floor. Garrett and Maxwell ran out of the room and huddled outside with the 2 deputies and waited. They could hear the kid gasp for breath, and then all was quiet. Billy the Kid was dead. The next day, Billy and the kid was hastily secretly and suspiciously buried at Fort Sumter Cemetery. Billy the Kid repeatedly killed 27 people in the American West. Some say more, some say less. Some say Billy the Kid died at age 21, and others say he lived until his late 80s. That'll go.